Hello, it's 9 p.m. in Djibouti. It's time to English New Edition. For tonight headlines, we have the President of the Republic preside over the celebration ceremony of the National and African Youth Day. Concerning the heavy rainfalls, the President will inspect the city by helicopters. For the international scene, Donald Tusk take the lead of the European right. Welcome to our newsroom. The head of state, as every year, the National and African Youth Day took place this morning at the People's Palace under the high patronage of the President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh. This day is celebrated each year to promote the growing recognition of youth people and as actors of social change, slow-term economic growth and sustainable development in all this area. Organized by the State Secretariat for Youth and Sports, the ceremony, which began in a festive and colorful atmosphere, was attended by members of the government, UN representatives, the various diplomatic corps, and several hundred young Djiboutians from the capital and the interior regions. Upon his arrival, the President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, accompanied by the First Lady, Ms. Khadra Mahmoud Haid, was welcomed by the Prime Minister Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohammed and the State Secretary for Youth and Sport, Mr. Hassan Mohammed Kamil. The first participants were introduced to sign and sketches and poems to explain the place of youth in the society.
wixii loo hagar baxaaba dheefteeda marbaad heshaaye haleeladii noo dhasho horaadkayga maalnayo canihii ku harad baxno hirqaanno ladaabane allow hodadiyo nimcada helnaye mahadda allow miyaanay hubaalahayn miyaan hubatii la guran miyaa dhalinyaro ilahayn barwaaqiyo horow markan nimcadanaan haatan hayno hogaamiyaheenu jeexay miyaanay hubaalahayn halbowlihii caafimaadka caymiskii oo hirgalay danyare uu haa ka hiri ummaddu ay haa ka tiri miyaanay hubaalahayn miyaan hubatii la guran miyaa dhalinyaro ilahayn hadhuubcaana asidiisa haddii hawloo wadaago talada la hufo la hadsho.
The theme of these days was making youth the foundation for the sustainability and prosperity of the nation. The use of the larger franchise of the population lies at the heart of government action, as on each day, this day highlighted the taking into account the young people's concern by authorities at the highest level, the involvement of young people in decision-making and strengthening solidarity, national cohesion, and above all, of a better strengthening of the democratic process. This day also reflected the strong convictions of the head of state, who was always stressed to know that no sustainable development is possible without young people. In other words, to involve youth in life in building a united and prosperous nation.
halosiga himilada dalkeena hadafkii madaxweynaheenu waa kaa hirgale hagaage cilmigii hawada maraayo halosiga himilada dalkeena hadafkii madaxweynaheenu waa kaa hirgale hagaage cilmigii hawada maraayo miyaanay hubalahayn miyaan hobatii la guran miyaan dhalinyaro ilahayn miyaanay hubalahayn miyaan hobatii la guran miyaan dhalinyaro ilahayn
The Secretary of State for Youth and Sport, His Excellency Hassan Mohammed Kamil, for his speech, said that this day is celebrated each year to promote the growing recognition of young people as actors of social change, slow-term economic growth, and sustainable development. In all these areas organized by the State Secretary for Youth and Sport, this ceremony, which began in a festive and colorful atmosphere. For his part, the President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, delivered an important speech at this ceremony dedicated to the commemoration of the National and African Youth Day. During this intervention, the President of the Republic especially reiterated his determination to continue to place youth at the top of his political and governmental priority. It is with great pleasure and satisfaction that I am attending with you this event devoted to youth, more precisely to the concern of our youth in their places, but also to their role within the nation. Youth, he said, we can never say it enough. It is a major strength and asset for all the countries of our continent. And it is not just any force, it is a force for the future, for a country like ours, a developing country whose youth account for more than 15% of its population. It would be a major strategic mistake not to integrate this component into our visions and planning for the development of our economy and our country. Fortunately, we are very sensitive to these problems, and successive governments have worked hard to address it today. Today, the conditions for the development of our young people are better than before. The government has mobilized many resources because education and health are, in my opinion, essentially prerequisite in the contributions of youth to the national development effort. Yes, we need to talk about youth, but he also talks to the youth. We must constantly create for the conditions for integration, intergenerational dialogue as interactive dialogue that paves the way for participatory initiative, because what we do for youth, we will do above all with youth. And it is this inclusive approach based on empowerment that can create a sense of belonging to a common destiny that our nation is. And it is this approach based on trust that will eventually convince us to our youth is not the problems but the solutions to the various problems of our nation. We therefore need a new perception, a new paradigm in which we must consider our youth as a inexhaustible resource available to the country. We need this new perspective to understand our youth as a catalyst for our nation. Also, in his speech, the head of state recalled that youth is the active forces for progress and promised to promise of a new generation. This is the future in the present. He said, she is undoubtedly, he continue to spearhead the nation society that is sick from its youth has not viability either in the short and long term. Likewise, a nation that cannot count on its young people has no horizon. This nation is being washed, and this nation has become an easy prey to its own disintegration. For its value, principle, and identity references to do not find really in its youth. The whole nation is of ours to run so the risks of being transfigured. Every nation ours to run to risk the risk of being diluted in globalization, whose ingredients are acculturation and standardization. But how can this alchemy of a youth faithful to these nations and a nation hallowed with its youth be successful? How can we ensure that both of us mutually enrich each other's around our values and principles? The answer is undoubtedly in the opportunities for renewal and evolution that young people have. Youth is an opportunity against immobility, social conservatism. Yes, young people are the best agents of change in mentality and practices because their ardors and audacity are as many vectors that can set our society in motion, that can transform it and open up new horizons. That's why, ladies and gentlemen, stability and stagnation should not be confused. Our nation, which enjoys a certain political and social stability, must avoid the trap of stagnation. For stagnation, it is the opposite of movement. It is the absence of progress. It is simply the absence of progress. And the best antidote to stagnation is our youth. It is his spirit of invention, innovation, his ability to project itself into the future is finally his sense of anticipation. Our responsibility is to create an environment that encourages the development and explosion of all the talents and qualities that are nestled in our young people. Such a framework must necessarily be interdisciplinary, but it must also be built on the aspirations and concern of young people, and this is how our nation, our youth can grow together. After the speech, the President of the Republic, this National and African Youth Day included as every year a section dedicated to the awardings of decoration and insignia medals to about the 10 personalities for the past investment in the field of the promotion of sport and youth. Then came the awards of the Grand Prize of the Head of State. There are 3 personalities known to the public. The first, the Youth Association of Chateau d'Eau to Alizabir with 3 million Djibouti francs. The Association for Solidarity and Ecology of Dehel with 2 million Djibouti francs. And finally is the turns of Abdulrazak Ali Waberi of Green Tech Entrepreneurs with million Djibouti franc. In short, this commemorations of the National and African Youth Day has finally combined the useful with the pleasant. The President will oversee a collective effort to assist compatriots affected by heavy rains. The President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, is at the forefront of the national effort to limit the damages caused by the torrential rain that fell today, Thursday, in our country, in addition to the instructions given to launch the ORSEC plan for natural disasters, the head of state directly coordinate the actions of various public service and departments responsible for providing assistance to our compatriots affected by the heavy rains. The President of the Republic has instructed the Prime Minister and all members of the government to supervise on the ground relief and support operations for the most vulnerable populations, including women, the elderly, and children. President Gele, who continues to monitor the situation, flew over the capital is an army helicopters at the end of the morning to inquire visually about the damages caused by the torrential rains. The head of state also made a prayer in accordance with the precept of our holy Muslim religions and culture for the establishment of civic solidarity in exceptional situations. Following the firm instructions given these mornings by the President of the Republic to rescue the populations, a crisis cell held meetings at the fire stations under the authorities of the Minister of Interior, the Minister of Decentralization, and the Minister of Health. This meeting also brought together senior officers of the National Army and firefighters, Coast Guard, as well as the prefect of the city, the mayor of the city, the sub-prefect. During this meeting, it was first decided to evacuate the rainwaters that fell this morning and that is filled the roads of the capital. The Minister of Interior, Mumin Ahmed Sheikh, made statement on television in which he provided an updating on the situations for his part. The Minister of Decentralization, Hamidou Mohamed Arwamis, rejoiced at the heavy rain that has fallen on the capital, but also explained the ins and outs of this meeting. After the President of the Republic flew over the capital to see the damages caused by the rain in order to visualize the gravity of the situation, the dedication of the armed forces, the President of the National Assembly, Muhammad Ali Humed, and the member of the government held a proximity meeting with the inhabitants of the neighborhood 7 and the city of Arhiba, and actions of solidarity to support the inhabitants. The member of the government saw the significant damage caused by the torrential rain. The Minister of Budget, Abdul Karim Aden, chaired the Minister of Communication and the Minister of Urbanism, Muhammad Abdul Qadir, was present at this. The member of government listening the complaints of the inhabitant of these two districts received detailed explanation. As part of civil military activities and following the heavy rain that fell this morning in the city of Djibouti, Djibouti Armed Forces have mobilized several transport vehicles to transport and rescue the population. Indeed, the torrential rain that fell on the city of Djibouti prevented buses and minibus from transporting Djiboutians to Umbuli and Balbala. These troop transport vehicles depart from the Mahmoud Harbi Square in Balbala. The second starting point is at the UNFT and the city Al-Hiba up to Humbli and Balbala. Finally, the three-round departures point of the vehicles take place in front of the maternity of Dar Hanan. We collected the reactions of the people who were transported and early after 2 p.m. who thanked first of all their kindness for the rain and then thanked the government and the Djiboutian armed forces for all the help they received during this period of heavy rain. joint ministerial meetings on the performance of the new Djibouti-Ethiopian railway line. The Minister of Equipment Transport, Musa Mohammed Ahmed, co-chaired a joint ministerial meetings on the performance of the new Djibouti-Ethiopian railway line with his counterpart from the Federal and Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, His Excellency Ms. Degmawit Moses, accompanied by a strong delegation, namely the Djibouti ambassador to Addis Ababa, Mr. Mohammed Idris Farah, the general managers of the Dorale Terminal Management Company, Mr. Abdullahi Wais Sigad, the general managers of the DMP, Wahib Daher Aden, and railway officials in Djibouti. Discussions focus on the achievement and prospect of Ethiopia-Djibouti lines in terms of freight and passenger service. Over the past 2 years, bus parties welcomed the efforts made by bus ports to complete connections in their platform in order to reduce loadings and unloading time. The Minister of Equipment Transport, Musa Mohammed Ahmed, said that the Republic of Djibouti was ready to work jointly with the Federal and Democratic Republic of Ethiopia. The Minister of Labor in charge of the reform of administration, Isman Ibrahim Roble, has received today late in the afternoon the new commanders of the Djibouti Italian bases, Colonel Michel Chedi, accompanied by Captain Bassi Antonio. The minister welcomed the new commanders of the Italian base in Djibouti. The discussion is focused mainly on bilateral relations and cooperation between the two countries. The minister also mentioned the legalizations of company to massively absorb youth employment because unemployment is still a scourge both globally and nationally. For his part, the new commanders was delighted with the warm welcome the government in general had given him and thanked them for the availability and encouragement. The interview took place in the presence of the Italian Honorary Council in Djibouti, Mr. Gianni Rizzo. On the occasions of the 13th celebrations of the 30th anniversaries of International Convention, the right of the child is the Djibouti Boulevard Service closed on Thursday, November 21st, a graduation ceremony, braid and metal badges were awarded to the last class of the judicial police officers at Captain Hamadou Barracks. The ceremony was co-chaired by Colonel Zakaria Hassan Aden, the chief of staff of the National Gendarmerie, and the prosecutors, the Attorney General, Mr. Jama Suleiman Ali. Several officials took place, including the first President of the Court of Appeal, Ms. Ni'ma Ali Warsama, several judges and the internal security attached of the French Embassy in Djibouti, and several senior officers of the Gendarmerie. This training of judicial police officers lasted 2 years, from 2017 to 2019, and was culminating in a final examination in which only 13 trainees managed to obtain their diploma and OGL insignia. For his part, the Attorney General, Mrs. Jama Suleiman Ali, also insisted in that the 2-year preparation training conditioned the quality of the OPG procedures. To highlight the importance of the training, the Attorney General, Jama Suleiman, stressed that he had no doubt about the performance of the new OPGs before welcoming the new judicial police officers to the family. For his part, Colonel Zakaria Hassan Aden, the Chief of Staff of the National Gendarmerie, in his speech delivered on this occasion, recalled that the National Gendarmerie devotes significant parts of its daily activity to the judicial police, which is at the heart of the profession of gendarme. and stress the importance of training, which is of great importance insofar as it should make it possible to improve the quality of means respect for procedures and rights, as well as to ensure the legal qualities of legal acts performed by the OPG. Colonel Zakaria Hassan Adan also urged the promoted to show exemplarity, courtesy, and self-sacrifices in assisting fellow citizens and to guard against all forms of abuse before congratulating them and wishing them every success. Within the framework of its prerogative provided by the law 59, the delegations of the National Human Rights Commission visit the country's penitentiary establishment and place of prevention detentions at the Gabon Civil Prison. In this perspective, a strong delegation is from the National Human Rights Commission, led by its president, Saliban Omar Udin, visit the civil prison of Gabon yesterday, Wednesday, November 20. The purpose of this regular visit to places the detention is in accordance with the provision is to obtain information on the conditions of detention, to assess the level of respect for human rights, and to assess the means implemented. The means implemented fruitful exchanges took place at the Gabon prison between the deputy directors of the penitentiary administration, Captain Abdi Ali, who assisted Lieutenant Hawa Mumin Jama, and the delegations of the CNDH. For the international scene, Donald Tusk arrives at the head of the European right. It seemed that European right was waiting for to launch its renewal. Donald Tusk was elected president of the European People Party on Wednesdays at the Congress in Zagreb. The outgoing president of the European Council, who was the only candidate, is therefore leading a party that suffered quite a bit in the last European elections. Like the Social Democrats, the Conservatives were overtaken by the Liberals, the Green, and the far-right former politicians in Poland, convinced and committed European. What can Donald Tusk bring to the European People's Party now? Will Neil Richmond, Irish parliamentary, he said, I think we will see the emphasis of respect for the law, respect for human rights. I think it is something very important we will have to confront the populists over the next 5 years with him as president. This is it for the news. Thanks for watching us.